Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy Cultist, back again with another logic video, and today the subject of our video is how to make first-person interaction with objects, or, grabbable objects. Like a crate, which I just so happen to have on hand. I've already made a prototype, of course, but we're going to copy it out and demonstrate some of the, some of the things that are going on with this. The first thing you've got to do is put a microchip on the crate using L1 and X to stamp it on there. And I labeled it item, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Next thing you want to do is stamp out a gyroscope, set it to full strength, full overall dampening, and 180 speed. Then you'll want a selector, which I believe a selector comes from the logic and processing section. Next thing you'll want is a little tag labeled drop connected to the A output. And if possible, try to set the tag in the center. Like if you open it up with L1 and square, you'll get this tweak menu, and then you can move it around. You can use precise move or grid snap, but have it mostly in the center. That's kind of where we want it. Then you'll want to copy it out and label the tag item grabbed, connect it to the B output on the selector. And once again, you'll want it mostly dead center. Next, we're going to take the selector's A output and connect it to the movable function so that, in its natural state, the crate will be movable. And after that, you want to connect the other A output to collidable. So basically it's collidable when you're not picking it up, but once you set it down again it'll become collidable. So keep A into collision. And if your crate is grouped and has a texture like this, you'll want to scope in order to open up its menu and get things right. So just keep that in mind. I think it is probably a good idea for any item to have a group first if you're going to move it, just in case you want to add extra details. So keep that in mind. Make sure to group it, which is just taking two things, selecting them with X, and then pressing this to group. Next, for the B output, we're going to hook up a teleporter labeled item P, this little box here, and set it to match target orientation. Put it in the center. This is going to act as the anchor point for our item when it's being grabbed. So, keep that in mind. We're also going to put a little tag that says can't in here, which will prevent us from picking up other crates. And the crate itself should be labeled object. It could be labeled anything, but I'm going to use object in this case. Next, we're going to have a little trigger zone down here, set to detect a label. The label in question, object. It can detect both invisible and non-collidable things, Not super necessary, but just in case I did it. Put it just above the crate so that it doesn't detect the crate itself. And then take an action recorder, and inside there, go to keyframe mode. You'll want to set it on this. And basically what you're going to do is scope in here and turn off the object state, meaning that it will no longer be considered an object if it collides with another object. That way you can stack the crates on top of each other. And you won't be able to interact with the bottom ones, and you won't end up with, weird velocity glitches and whatnot. It's just a precaution, and it may not work in all cases, but hopefully our gyroscope will keep it upright, so, it'll work for the most part when stacked. Alright then, so that's our crate business out of the way. Now we'll get to the first-person puppet. I'm using an asset that's actually readily available, Media Molecules, you know, puppets or whatever. If you want to find it, just type in first person. And it comes with a gun, but I'm not really using a gun in this instance. Now, they've already gone through the trouble to put a little square up here, which is actually pretty useful. I don't know if I may have actually redundantly added something that didn't need to be there, but if you want to build your own, you're going to want to add a microchip up here. And on this microchip, honestly though, we could just ignore theirs and put ours on top. I think it'll be fine. I'm just not used to working with that other thing because I've been working with the prototype version. But this is going to act as our ability to grab things. It'll move when the head moves, because Media Molecules already programmed this first-person camera and all that stuff, which I could get into on a separate video if you want to know how to build that from scratch, but needless to say, they've already got that covered. First thing we're going to want is a tag labeled Item P, which stands for Item Place, in case you needed reminding. Or clarification. And this is where the crate will be when you've, you know, picked it up. And I'm basically putting it mostly dead center of the camera. Next thing you're going to want is a laser scope. A laser scope which only detects things labeled as object. Leave X-ray mode on. We can only detect visible and collidable things. Actually, we might just make it so that, yeah, don't turn this on. It's probably better that it only detects this. Alright. Another thing we're going to do is pull it down like so, and pull it ahead so that it won't collide with anything the puppet has on it. And we'll probably put a certain distance to it too, so that it can't grab anything that's out of a certain range. Like, you wouldn't want to be able to grab something that was way high up on the ceiling. So limiting the distance is probably a good idea. Next, we're going to want a keyframe, which you could use one of these. You don't necessarily have to use the basic keyframe model. Action recorder will work just fine as long as it's set to loop. And you'll also want 2 text displayers. Which I'm going to copy because they have already got these. Or maybe not. Maybe I won't copy them. But they're using the icon system that has built into the game, which, for explanation, basically you can just do something like this. UI grab, and you've got a grab. That's how you can do it. And if you want to know all the icons that are available that you can use, there's a handy little website called ElDavisimo, and it has all of the icons available, so it kind of helps with creating games and whatnot. Now, one thing we're going to do real quick is delete these. These won't really be visible if you're making them fresh. I'm just putting them in because, you know, these are the prototype ones and we don't really use them as is. The keyframe is actually what's going to be connected to them. And all we're going to do is up the opacity on this one and up the opacity on that one. at least for this keyframe. And I think that's pretty much all it does, so that's nice to know. No more complications. And we're going to copy out this. Turn the power back on. And add a microchip. We'll call it grab box. And now we'll take a look at what we need inside. First thing we're going to need is a mover. Well, actually it's not really a mover, it's a follower, but, you know, sometimes I'm bad with the nomenclature. Set it to maximum speed, maximum dampening, yada yada yada. No tag name though, because we are going to be connecting this little laser scope that I showed you earlier. Hit position to target position, so it will follow the laser scope wherever it goes. And next we're going to want a timeline set to play once, and I think you know where this is going if you've watched enough of our videos. Connect that to here. Take out a NOT gate. This is basically just preventing playback. And we're going to put a switch on here for the duration. And a handy little trigger zone set to detect a tag. And I'm going to double check what kind of label it should have. Item grabbed is the label. Item grabbed. If you recall, we took a tag labeled item grabbed and connected to the B output on this selector. So basically, once this is triggered, this will be active. So keep that in mind. And we're going to want to make the zone more square because that's probably better for this particular situation. And make it a little smaller. It doesn't have to be so big. We'll see. It can be modified if necessary. So if it turns out not to work, don't be bothered by that. Next thing we're going to do is take out another one, and we're going to label this one drop. I suppose for consistency's sake, we should probably label the other one grab. But this is going to allow us to put the thing back. We'll call it item drop. And we may have to relabel one of these tags. This one's just called drop. Item drop seems more descriptive and snappy, so I will rename it. Alright, I think that's just about everything we'll need for the, oh, I forgot about one other thing. We've got a little fella down here called can't, a little trigger zone. Can't. We're going to make this pretty wide because we want it to be triggered for certain. But basically, when it comes in contact with a can't, it will do a certain thing, which is shut off this timeline, which allows us to pick up new items. Now, in a lot of games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, when you press down and hold the button for grabbing, you can carry the thing around. This time, we're going to make it toggleable. Toggleable. We're going to make it so it has a toggle. But basically, what that means is that when you tap one button, you pick it up, and when you tap another, you drop it. And the reason why we're doing this is because of a little absurdity in Dreams logic, where if you're holding this down, it's difficult to shut off the action. You'd be picking up multiple crates at once, because basically you can't figure out a really good way to shut off this action without destroying the whole process. So we're going to make it so it toggles, which shouldn't be a large issue in most games, I feel like. And we're going to need a button to pick it up, so let's just go into the MM logic that's already prepared. You'll find the controller logic in here. Kind of tilted a little bit. And we're going to make R1 our grab button. But, yeah, maybe R2 makes more sense. We'll use R2, but you'll need a calculator because R2 has a maximum strength, you know, and if you don't hold it down very tightly, it probably won't work properly, so we're going to make it ultra sensitive by setting it to a value of greater than 0.1. So just a tiny little click of R2 will set this thing off the way we want it to be, which is what I prefer. And next we're going to want circle. I ordinarily would put these connected to a controller output, like I would have a separate, you know, if you've seen in some of my other videos, I have these separate microchip labeled controller logic so that I could shut off all the ports if I want. But this time we're just going to connect them straight to the logic we want to access for time saving sake, you know. So, yes. Oh, another thing. We're going to want a keyframe, or a action recorder as it were, connected to cant, set to loop, and basically all it's going to do is it's going to turn this on when we're grabbing and turn this off when we're not. You know, well, it's just going to change this to look like a grabby hand. Just a small little detail. Now, if all of this has been done correctly, this should all work. Which I believe it's been done correctly. Yep. They're carrying the crate around. It's a little bit in our face. Not quite a big fan of that. Like, you can barely see anything. It's not such a big deal if it takes up most of the camera, but it shouldn't be that in your face, so let's pull it out further. And there's the drop button. Circle is our drop button, by the way. I already showed that, but, you know, just in case. Now there's another thing. I want to demonstrate what I was talking about with the stacking, just to prove that it works. You'll notice we're not grabbing the other crate. That's good. Now just drop it, and you won't be able to grab the bottom one. So it'd be really easy if you want to create a stack and you don't want to accidentally grab the bottom one, or grab them both at once. See? Now, if you put them right beside each other, there might be a glitch. Oh, actually, there's no glitch at all. Actually, that's really good. I was thinking there'd be some kind of interaction glitch. Now, of course, there's collision glitchery, but I think that's actually fair. Most games have that. Anyway, hopefully you find this helpful if you're making some kind of Amnesia-style game. There's lots of other stuff that uses it. You know, the ability to grab things. I think Doom uses it, or at least one of the Dooms. Doom 3, I think. It's interesting. And you might get some wonkiness like this every once in a while, but to be frank, even in professional games you get stuff like this. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts, leave a comment, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. If you would like to support us financially, consider clicking the join button to become a member and unlock perks. You can also leave a super thanks in the comments, which we would appreciate, or a one-time donation on Ko-fi, link in the description. That's all for now. Goodbye.